Do you want me to scoot over one, Julia? So I'm over. I think we do these in the room. Okay. Yeah, I can't remember. I feel like we said we were one and in person. Yeah, I can't remember. I feel like we said we were one in person.
Probably set up a meet. So what I typically would like to ask, obviously, besides telling me a little bit more about your programming, your resources, is in what ways can it help? Because there's obviously a very
And I'm gonna file.
Or if you did. Also, I thought this was supposed to be, and she mentioned that the first time she
It'd be
did
nice
it,
to go all the food.
I said, how would you ever tell me? I appreciate that. And she asked me, she said, was they,
We are just waiting a couple of minutes for a couple of extra people, so we have a quorum. So for everyone online, sorry, that's why we're not starting.
That's a different swim. We do this versus just using ID for that comes down all of the people that we go for these services. And then it has that distinction.
go ahead and get started. We are short one board member for a quorum, but we will skip over those matters and get started. We will start with introductions. We have a few people here in person, so I think we'll start with them and then we can go to the people that are on Zoom. I am Rochelle Conant. I am the public defender in Kane County and chairman of the board. I can't remember what my role is, sorry. Josh.
Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Axelson. I'm the coordinator of alternative programs here at the Regional Office of Education. I serve as the vice chair of the council. I am sad that some of you couldn't have attended today. Here physically, we were able to get lunch and the homemade chips are fantastic. But I'm glad you're able to join in through virtual means. So that's me.
Go ahead. Yes.
I'm Ellen.
I know it's kind of strange.
Yeah, there's a rotating color. I'm Suzanne Markin, and I'm with Kane County's Office of Community Reinvestment, the Workforce Development Division, and I am the program manager.
Zach Rose. I work with the National Youth Advocate Program. We do counseling and treatment advocacy services for the Wheel of clients in Kane, County.
Araceli Asensio, I'm new to the Kane County ROE. I am the community intervention specialist.
Okay, so then we can start.
Yeah, I hope we're calling out people. So the first one I see is Becky.
Hi, everybody. Becky Sadler with Rosecrans Health Network.
Michael.
Good morning, everybody. Michael Isaacson, Executive Director at the Kane County Health Department.
Juliana.
Juliana. I work with Aunt Martha's CCBYS program. We provide free counseling for youths in Kane and Kendall County.
Ricky.
Vicki Wanak, Clinical Manager with Tri-City Family Services.
Ricky.
Ricky Rogers, Director for the African American Men Unity.
Adam.
Hello, Adam Schauer, Dean for Adult and Workforce Education at Wabanzi Community College.
Latanya.
Latanya Hill, Director for Kane County Core Services.
Jenny.
Jennifer Garcia at Family Service Association. I'm one of the mental health juvenile justice clinicians.
Vern.
Hi, Vern Tempe. I'm on the Kane County Board.
Ben.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ben Greer. I'm the Associate Director for Adult Education and Literacy Program Support Specialist with the Illinois Community College Board.
Yesenia.
Hi, my name is Yesenia. I'm from Family Services Association for Greater Elgin, and I'm the mental health juvenile justice clinician.
Mirna.
Hello, my name is Myrna Salcido. I work for Aunt Martha's. I'm a crisis clinician for Kane and Kendall counties.
Kristen. You there, Kristen? So go back to Kristen and then Simon.
Hi, good morning. Simon Rodriguez, Youth Services Manager with the City of Aurora.
All right, well, welcome to everyone. We are glad that you could make it either in person or virtually. Get at our quarterly meetings, it gives us an opportunity to give you an update as to what the board is working on. I'm going to start, we're going to skip approval of our September meeting minutes until we see if we can get a quorum. The next item is the chairman's report. In September, our expenditures were $2,131.61, and that was for personnel and benefits. In year to date, we have spent $5,420.69. Our new contract for fiscal year 2023 was published on September 26th, and it is currently going through the process through the county board for it to, the resolution process for it to be approved and ratified. So that is the chairman's report. And we'll move on to our old business, which is an update on the projects that we are working on currently. Youth and parents, there is going to be a parent equity work workshop with West Aurora, which will take place on October 13th from 6 to 8 p.m. And Julia has sent out that flyer. If anyone did not receive it, please feel free to contact Julia if it is something that you find of interest to send out to the clients that you take care of. Law enforcement, we are still trying to get 3 additional game leaders for our juvenile jeopardy. And so we continue to work on that. And those are law enforcement officers that are the game leaders. Restorative practices. Lark and Julia, Lark Howard is with the state's attorney's office in their abuse and neglect division. And she and Julia, did you introduce yourself?
No. Everybody knows me. I'm the coordinator of the council. I'm Julia Schick. Sorry.
So Julia and Lark are halfway through completing their training for restorative practices for the pre-arrest diversion program through the state's attorney's office. Julia, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so, and it's with the pre-arrest diversion program. There's also a staff member from West Aurora. For those that might recall, we did a lot of training over the summer with West Aurora. So this is one last person, and then they're pursuing a training of trainers for their district. So that's exciting that they're kind of pushing forward. But then with the pre-arrest diversion program, it's been a good experience so far, just thinking about how they can utilize restorative practices within the pre-arrest diversion program and looking at opportunities to do some of the restorative conferencing as well to help those that are in their program. So.
And for those that are not aware, the pre-arrest diversion program is a new program that has been developed through the state's attorney's office with Jamie Mosser. They have their own division and they are targeting individuals with mental health issues. So a lot of criminal trespass to land, you know, that people because of mental health issues are homeless. And the idea is to, instead of filing charges and arresting them, they have the opportunity to work with a counselor. I believe it's for 60 days, and they just kind of set them up to give them recommendations of things that they can do for services. And the idea is that all they really have to do is sit down and be a part of this initial meeting, and then charges will not be filed. So it's a good opportunity, and it would work for younger youths also, you know, 19, 20. It's a good opportunity to try to capture those individuals and help them learn ways that they can deal with the issues that they're facing in their life so that hopefully they don't end up in the system. So it's really great that Julia and Lark are able to be a small part of that. Any questions about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
Does Kane County provide re-entry services? I know it's a jail, and so it's a detention center. People are mainly awaiting trial, or how does it operate?
So there is not a formal re-entry program. I will tell you that the sheriff is very diligent and very good about, he has social workers that he has brought in, and they work very hard to try to set up the individuals so that when they get out of custody, they have the potential to have a job, help them with driver's license, help them with place to live. So while it is not a formal reentry program, he does have a lot of programs within the jail to help people for when they are released.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. How do you determine what agencies you use for this particular program?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How do you determine what agencies to use for this diversionary program?
For the diversion program?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for you for that. That is a state's attorney run program. And we don't have anybody from the state's attorney's office on here yet today. But I would certainly encourage you to contact Ms. Mosser's office, and I'm sure they'd be able to get you in contact with the people that could get you the information.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Moving on our old business, next is expungements. Our expungements packet, we are updating it at the beginning of the calendar year. There are some changes that are going into effect for it for 2023, very minor things, but things that will need to be updated. And we are also working on trying to make it a little more family friendly and easier to use. There's a lot of information in that packet, and so it's very difficult to make it family friendly, but we are working on that again to try to kind of change it to make it a little more user friendly for our audience. So hopefully we will have that completed by the first of the year. Yes, and it has been posted on our website, right? On the Juvenile Justice Council website with the standardized form. So if you have clientele or youth that you think that would benefit, please go on and pull that off of our website. Most of the juvenile cases now are automatic expungements, but there are still some that you do need to file for, and our packet does explain how to do that. Any questions on that? We also have a mental health work group that has been meeting, and they are meeting and discussing how mental health concerns are currently being addressed among those involved in the court system, and they are exploring areas of opportunity.
Not yet, possibly towards the end of the month.
Okay.
But we're talking via email right now, trying to figure out sort of a direction to move forward, what is within sort of the scope of the Juvenile Justice Council to address related to mental health among the youth that are coming into juvenile court.
Any questions on that? Okay, that is, so next is our updates on our fiscal year 2023 priorities. The first is Juvenile Justice Council restructure. So we have been looking at, we convened a work group for this as well. And the idea is to determine a structure for our council that will increase our functionality as an entity, and to make sure that we are addressing the highlights or not highlights, but the points in the statute of things that we are supposed to be doing. So we have been meeting on that, and there is going to be a little interactive activity that is hopefully going to help us with that in that meeting and determining the direction we want to take with restructuring. And the work group is continuing to meet, and we do have another meeting planned, and hopefully the outcome of our activity today will help us in our next meeting. We're not doing it right now, so right. Okay, yeah. The second thing that we are working on for fiscal year 2023 is a symposium that the Juvenile Justice Council will put on, and there is a work group designed to work on that. They are planning a multidisciplinary educational event for spring of 2023. And their next meeting is October 20th to continue planning on that. So hopefully more information to come on that. Any questions
Question about that, if I may, is that symposium, would that include other counties within Illinois, or is that just the northern part of Illinois?
We are, so because of the Juvenile Justice Council, we'd be using funding for the council. It does need to be targeted towards and benefit Kane County youth, essentially.
Okay, it's just Kane County, okay.
So yeah, we understand that there's professionals though that work outside of Kane County that do interact with youth from Kane County. So it's not a hard and fast, but yeah, primarily.
I know when you mentioned Juvenile Justice Symposium, I thought that was encompassing others, but you're just pertaining to Kane County. That's good, thank you.
All right, so our next is our racial and ethnic disparities. And so we do have a RED team, and their next meeting is scheduled October 21st. At the last meeting was on August 17th, and they discussed the 2019 data of racial and ethnic disparities and determined additional data that would be helpful in determining next steps. And so at their next meeting, the plan is to discuss that additional data and determine where they go from there. I don't know if Julia, I am not on that meeting team, but I don't know if Julia wants to, anything you want to add to that?
So I think some of the data that we're planning to do a survey, a second survey for law enforcement, because one of the things that we're looking into is the contributing factors to arresting a youth, as well as the dispositions that are being used. And so we plan to distribute that and hopefully have some responses to look at. We're also looking at ordinance violations. I don't know if anybody has been keeping up with the news and has seen some of the communication that's gone out, I think in the Tribune specifically, about ordinance violations coming from school districts. So we're looking at some of that data as well. And there's one other, Latanya, can I call on you? There was one other piece of data that we're digging into. I want to say it had to do with at the court level.
Put me on the spot.
Pulled some data for us. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Let me think back. I can't remember that last piece either. Give me the two you had already.
I had ordinance violations and then the law enforcement data.
And we were looking kind of domestic battery as well, correct?
I mean, we've been talking about domestic battery, yes, but this was more related, I think this was related to, no, this was, I know what it was. It was related to referrals to court from court services and how many of those actually then end up with petitions in juvenile court.
Right, which I think you already have that data. I shared that with you, correct?
I don't know if I do have that data yet.
Okay.
You got it, so maybe, I don't think I have it, but yes, that is the other piece that we're digging into as well.
Yep.
Thanks, Latanya. I just need to talk to you. That's all.
Okay, and then the statewide committee on racial and ethnic disparities, which is the Illinois Racial Justice and Equity Committee, they have finalized a state plan and submitted it to OJJDP. They worked on refining the criteria used to prioritize which jurisdictions to try and work with in reducing racial and ethnic disparities. And they are also looking at determining work groups to help carry out the plan. And then, did you want to say anything on that one? Because you're on that committee, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the kind of the overall point of that committee, they're really looking at, they use statewide data to inform that plan. And so there are some gaps in that data. So I think they're looking at trying to figure out the data collection measures that we can have more accurate data to pull from, to look at and review. The other piece that I know has come up in board of directors meetings, and I would just share for the good of the group, that as far as jurisdictions that may be asked to work with, not only because we have a council, but also because our data reflects disparities at least higher disparities at least two of the decision points, we're likely to be one of those jurisdictions that that statewide committee is going to want to work with.
Any questions on either of those? Okay, then.
Sorry to ask a lot of questions here, but I'm one of the reasons I'm at the meeting today is because through the Illinois Community College Board, in my role, I'm working very closely with Waubonsie Community College and also Elgin, and interested in the correctional education components or programs that are offered to the Kane County Correctional Centers. And so the question I have is, what is the recidivism rate with Kane County juvenile corrections, the rearrest rate, since you're talking about racial disparities?
So Latanya's jumping in.
So being able to give recidivism rates is a little bit more difficult than you would expect, because what happens with running or getting that data, you ultimately have to enter into an IRB with a local college to be able to run background checks on any cases in which the case is no longer open. So to be able to give you a rate for anyone that was once detained at our juvenile justice center and then pick up a new offense later on, let's say 3, 6, 9 months, something like that, we have been unable to do that because it takes having a local university with a PhD to go through all of that information. The other issue you have to recognize for juveniles is that a lot of times arrests are not put into leads. So it's difficult to even get that data in the first place, because if the arrest is not entered into leads, there's no way to know if another arrest occurred. So I understand why you're asking that question, but it's very difficult to answer a question such as that. To go back to what education is being offered, I can tell you from the juvenile side was offered at the Juvenile Detention Center, because I don't think Mike Davis is on this call, is he? And I know Lisa isn't either. But at the JJC, we do have schooling 12 months out of the year. The ROE is over our education system. So Josh, jump in anytime that you want. But there are teachers assigned. Our kids attend school 5 days out of the week. We do work with, there is a coordinator in the building that works with the schools, the home schools of the kids that are detained at the JJC, to be able to make sure that we transfer credits and they're getting credits for the time that they are detained. I think your original question too was, what is the majority of the kids that's in the detention center? They are on the pretrial status for the most part.
Right.
And the majority of those kids are pre-adjudicatory, but we do work with the local school districts to make sure they're getting their credits. There have been times that they have worked with the local community colleges to offer GED. At one point, I think our kids were even getting college credit through ECC. That was before COVID. I'm not sure the status of that as of late. But to answer some of the questions you put out there.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the reasons for me is through ICCB, I work with about 24 educational organizations, community colleges, ROEs, community-based organizations, and I also provide program support for the Illinois Department of Corrections, the Cook County Department of Corrections, and Adult Division, and the Peoria County Correctional Center. So juvenile justice is something that we're interested in moving more into, and I just, because of my lack of understanding, after working extensively with the adult division, is this the reason why I'm asking these questions. And I appreciate the information that you're giving me.
No problem.
If it's at all helpful as well, Ben, just to clarify, when we're talking about looking at the decision points, those are defined for us by the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention at the federal level. And so those 5 decision points that we look at are basically progressing into the system. So it's arrest, diversion, detention, commitments to Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice, and then transfers to adult court. So that's where we're when we talk about looking at that racial and ethnic disparity data, we're looking at the rates of racial and ethnic disparities at those 5 decision points.
Okay, thank you very much.
I don't know, Josh, did you want to?
No, Latanya did an awesome job.
Okay.
I concur.
Just didn't want to skip yet.
No.
Okay, so next is we have a domestic battery work group from Juvenile Justice Council as well. We have not had meetings recently, and Julia is working on trying to get us reconvened. At the end, we were working on hopefully some legislative fixes to help with domestic battery in juvenile delinquency court. Unfortunately, I don't know if you've all heard of the Safety Act, but that has kind of taken over a little bit, but Julia is working really hard to get us back reconvened and moving on these issues. And then CPRD did a data presentation for us at the end of September or middle of September. And that was on detention data from Kane County for 2020 and 2021, as well as data on juveniles that were transferred to adult court. They graciously allowed us to tape that presentation. So if anyone is interested in seeing that, please reach out to Julia and she can give you the information to be able to watch that. But that kind of goes into our discussions of the RED information and groups that we're working on with that. So it was a very interesting presentation and gave a lot of good information for us. Any questions on any of that? I'm going to go, but we do have a quorum now, so I'm going to kind of skip around here. I'm going to go back so we can approve our September meeting minutes for the board members that are on Zoom for the meeting and present in here. If there are any corrections or changes to the September meeting minutes, if I could hear those. Okay, then the meeting minutes will be approved as submitted. So then we can move on to new business. There was an email vote that passed that allowed us to print additional materials for restorative practices, and that email vote did pass. And then we are moving on to our activity today, which is our Juvenile Justice Council restructure planning activity. And I'm going to let Julia explain what we're doing.
So we tried to make this, we tried to plan this as best we could for our hybrid meeting. And so I think it's going to be less involved as we anticipated with our, because we have a smaller group in person here and we have more numbers online. So I'm anticipating that this might be more of an open discussion. So we have 4 questions that we want to process. And I don't know if folks have, some of this we're asking you to review the Juvenile Justice Council statute. So I don't know if folks had done that. I can certainly pull up the Juvenile Justice Council statute and send it to you all. But our hope is, the idea with the restructure is that we're trying to, I cannot type in this at the same time. Our hope is that we're trying to align more with the statute that does essentially set out what the Juvenile Justice Council should do in Illinois. And so we were hoping to get some input from everybody who is on this council, that is not the right statute, to help inform that discussion and kind of our next steps. So like I said, we have 4 questions that we would like to ask. Those who are here in person, the 4 questions are on the back of your packets. And let me just, give me just a second and I'll find the statute. And then I'll put a link in the chat box. Do you all need the statute pulled up on the screen? Do you recall? Josh has it memorized.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so for those who are online with us, I'm going to put it in the chat box for you all, so you can pull it up on your end. All right. So if everybody's okay with it, we'll just kind of do an open brainstorm discussion for this activity. And some of it pertains to the statute, some of it's more open-ended, like this first one. So what role does the Juvenile Justice Council serve in our community? And I'll put this in the chat, but the floor is open for ideas.
Well, I guess that I'll jump in. I would say that the Juvenile Justice Council serves as a focal point for community services, government agencies, and the like to be able to coordinate services for students, clients, the individuals that are justice involved, to help streamline those services and connect community entities so that we can address the issues and provide opportunities for these individuals to not recidivate. I see it as the focal point of all these different organizations to be able to get on the same page and streamline our services, make things easier.
Do we have anyone agrees, disagrees with that? I've got nodded heads in the room. Simon
Well,
does.
I would agree with everything he said, but I'd also say too, the council can identify gaps in available services and figure out how to fill the gaps, but then also identify overlaps where we have multiple agencies providing similar services. I mean, obviously our community is a big community. So you have north end, south end and whatever, but it does seem like we have a lot of agencies that are sometimes competing for the same grant funds and servicing some of the same populations with similar services that could, I think the Juvenile Justice Council can assist in helping decide which agencies should be providing which services and get the emphasis so there's not actually competition between the different agencies.
Okay. Simon, I saw you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, no, I'll echo what Adam and Michael just said, and I'll add to that. And I actually want to give props to Michael Isaacson and his team for not only introducing me, but showing me how to utilize the IRIS system. I love that for all these folks that are on this call and so many out there that work on a regular basis with youth, with our families, it's imperative for us to know the type of resources that we can refer families to. So in the same way with Juvenile Justice Council, I can't tell you how many times I get phone calls from parents saying, well, my kid hasn't gotten in trouble, but he's or she's acting up, and what resources are out there for him? And I think if there's a one-stop shop, I think that's where the Juvenile Justice Council can serve that role with our partners in having a resource hub, so to speak, where any of us at any time can refer folks to these services.
Simon.
Anyone else on question number 1?
Yeah, if we're ready to move on, we can move on. All right, so the next one, and this might be more individually based too. So again, all responses welcome, but we'd like to ask what Juvenile Justice Council actions, projects, initiatives that have assisted your agency in addressing juvenile delinquency or offered any additional benefits to your agency. So any Juvenile Justice Council actions or projects or initiatives that have helped your agency in addressing juvenile delinquency or offered additional benefits to your agency. I'll put that in the chat as well.
I'll go ahead and start. This is Kristen. I'm with the Juvenile Officer Association, also with North Aurora Police Department. So we've reached out, I know this was pre-COVID, to Julia to come and talk, just because it is like a compilation of all the resources we have within the county. So it definitely helps us to know when we make that arrest, what are our diversion options so we can try to avoid the court system. So the council's really helped with that. We've had other police departments within the county reach out to say, hey, I've got this issue, what can we do? So the council has really provided a lot of support in that aspect to help us do different diversion programs that we may not have been aware of, since this is kind of like a center for that.
Thanks, Kristen.
Julia, I know for the ROE, some of the training programs that the council has put on a few years back, the restorative practices, making sure that educators and community agencies and even some on the law enforcement court side being trained in restorative practices was a huge piece that the council helped put on, but also the wake-up call trainings. It was a great benefit for our community and parents of our students, but also the students themselves and educators and administrators. I know a lot of our districts are still asking about wake-up call trainings, and that's been a huge plus for the council to help facilitate those and cover some of the expenses.
Thanks, Josh.
Tanya, sorry, I just saw your hand.
I was waiting. The hard part with Zoom is you never know when people are going to jump. So I tend to be one that jumps. So I'm like, let me raise my hand because I don't want to disrupt anything. I would say what the Juvenile Justice Council has helped court services to do is, one, educate service providers about what type of services have been proven to work for evidence-based practices, what type of services our population is in need of. I think it's also helped educate law enforcement and providers on the desire to divert, why we want to divert, what the research says about that. I echo what Josh is saying in helping with training and training the community on issues related to youth in general, and then at-risk youth. I think the council has assisted in trying to champion the need for services for the delinquent population, because services for youth in general can look very different than those that have now been exposed to the juvenile delinquency system, just in the type of services that we're looking for and helping us find providers that are okay with and positioned to work with a high-risk, high-need population versus, kids that are, have developmental needs and things of that nature.
And I will pretty much just echo what has already been said. The restorative practices training that we went through really, really helped Wabanzi's adult education program realign its student services and the way that we approach any sort of disruptions into our classes. It has also made us more aware, more responsive to the needs of justice involved youth in the area and how we can better position our services to address those needs and be more accessible for our justice involved youth population and essentially our justice involved population in general. So thank you.
Anyone else have question 2 before we move on?
So question 3 now is to identify or suggest new or existing programs that are aimed at addressing juvenile delinquency that you think the Juvenile Justice Council should consider supporting or would be enhanced by Juvenile Justice Council involvement, and the type of support that would be helpful. That's a loaded question, but let me type it out for you. Judges here as well.
I guess I will jump in. It's already in the process, but I think obviously with the changes coming in January, we really want to work together with our educational, in entities in Kane County, both Elgin Community College and Wabanzi Community College, to help assist our youth and, our justice involved individuals in general in really aligning them with educational opportunities, getting them working with programs like ours to make sure that, individuals that are in need of a high school equivalency program are able to get into that and really help enhance the communication back and forth between pretrial and probation and educational entities like myself to be able to help individuals get into high school equivalency programs to help begin moving that needle towards completion of their high school equivalency.
So there's a new program that's being put together by CASA and the Kane County Bar Foundation. I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but it's basically a program geared towards at-risk and special needs kids to basically provide them with access to extracurricular activities that might otherwise be cost prohibitive or transportation issues, things like that. I'm not directly involved in it, so I don't know all the details, but I think CASA and the Kane County Bar Foundation could probably use our assistance, if nothing else, just to kind of develop the pipeline as to where the opportunity would be presented, whether it's through ROE. So it's more of a prevention thing. It's not like a diversion program or anything, but it's identifies interests the kids have. It basically gets them off the streets, and doing something productive after school. And it's just, and I wish I could remember what they were going to call the program, but I don't think it's officially launched yet, but that might be something we'd want to participate with CASA and the Kane County Bar Foundation on.
I have a comment, Ricky Rogers. We've been around since 1999, providing a rite of passage, leadership development, and manhood training program for at-risk youth. Typically, when boys think about joining gangs or engaging in delinquency, they're usually a part of fatherless homes. So we become the positive role model, mentor, and father figure for them. So mentoring for us has been an extreme method by which we've actually been able to turn a lot of the young men around that we have been in contact with, and to teach them about life skills, prepare them for their future, get them start developing skills such as empathy for others and understand the consequence of their actions and behaviors. Is a very best practice approach in order to solve a lot of the problem that's going on. And I think it's imperative, since we are talking about reducing racial and ethnic disparities within the juvenile justice system, to include entities like ours to actually be involved in that process as well as the discussion.
Simon, your hand's up.
Yes, thank you. And also, and I know Officer Kelly's on the call as well. So the City of Aurora, we have for at least the last 10 years, if not longer, have a peer jury program, which focuses on restorative justice. We work in conjunction with both the Aurora and North Aurora Police Departments and our youth detectives. And they will identify cases in which a young person is arrested, typically a first-time offense, typically, I can't say nonviolent because there's fighting and things, but they determine if this child and their parents, they recommend our program to them. And the thing I love about it, first of all, it's the parents are involved at all times. They have to show up to all the court dates and all the sessions that we have them. But then the other aspect of this program is we have a jury of their peers. So we have a jury comprised of middle school and high school students that volunteer. They get trained by our social worker who runs the program. It's just phenomenal. It's a second chance. It does not cost anything for the families to be in it. And, they have a choice, and we tell them, you can go in our program. It's free. It involves a counseling intake session, involves community service, everything completed within a month or 2 months time. We help them keep this off their record from that point on, as opposed to them going through the traditional route where, as we all know, court fees can be costly and it could potentially be a stain on their record and affect their future employment, future careers. Our goal is to work with other entities, other agencies, to school districts even, to potentially create their own type of peer jury program that fits the needs of that community. And I think, JJC could be a great partner in helping us identify various institutions, organizations, and even for us for them to come in and check out a session to see what it's all about. But I highly believe in this program. I believe in restorative justice. I believe in second chance, especially that clinical intake session. And sorry, I know I'm rambling, but the other thing is that we're looking at right now doing is a referral process. So at the end of the counseling intake and the program, our social worker can potentially refer this family, this youth, to more services as needed.
To build off that also, just as a kind of an FYI, the Boys and Girls Club are opening up a new clubhouse in South Elgin that is currently under renovation. They're looking at expanding opportunities in the Kane area. And there's currently a Boys and Girls Club of Aurora board in place that is looking to build the state's largest clubhouse in East Aurora. And so partnering with these diversion, opportunities, these programming are key to, really stopping the problem before it even begins. And so, I think these are great. This is a great organization for the JJC to closer align with, to help put in some of those preemptive programming that we can work with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Being proactive as opposed to reactive is always better. Prevention as opposed to intervention. So yeah, I'm with that all the way.
Any others?
In addition to working with the youth themselves, are there programs in Kane County that also include the families? Like a family reunification or restorative program that, in addition to the youth?
Well, I guess I'll jump in. Over my 17 years of working within the juvenile justice system, I wish there was more programs out there for like the preventative piece of that. But for minors that are sentenced to probation and fit a certain criteria depending upon their age, we do have a program called multi-systemic therapy, where we will refer families to an agency. They work with them in the home. Ultimately, a lot of the goals around the situation for the family is putting in structure, helping them navigate the school system, having them advocate for services within school, some of that community connection, and kind of giving guidance into rules and consequences, and how to use your own natural supports within your families and that to help that youth. So on the tail end of the system, which I hate that it takes that long for a program like that, we do offer that to certain minors.
Good.
And that's paid for through court services.
And I was just thinking, because you're dealing with the youth and trying to service them. Well, I would think that largely they come from dysfunctional families. So the return to that, and the family not being able to be supportive, that can be a major issue too.
I know there's a handful of providers online here, so I don't know if anybody wants to add anything further than what LaTanya shared in response. Any other responses to that third question? We're ready for number 4, which is how can your agency or organization help the Juvenile Justice Council fulfill the activities that are outlined in the Juvenile Justice Council statute?
Bonzi Community College is an education provider. We also provide workforce training and development through government programs, through WIOA. We currently work with numerous employers in the area to provide on-site training services for their employees, and also working to develop a portfolio of background-friendly employers that are kind of part of our network. So for Wabanzi's standpoint, education, training, financial assistance to be able to gain access to high needs career training in the area, and then also to align these individuals with good paying career opportunities in the local area.
To take what Adam said just a step further, Wabanzi is one of the recipients of our WIOA funding throughout Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb. We have 7 providers. And so I think what's been particularly helpful for us being a part of this organization is we have made inroads with several different entities that serve youth that are justice affected, as well as other providers as well. And so in particular, being able to connect with court services, probation officers, the judges themselves, we've been able to put that program information in their hands as a diversionary tactic, or also as kind of an answer. So, you know, Judge Parga is a great example. She's really a supporter of our program, and there have been instances where she will offer an individual at her bench the opportunity to go into, you know, a GED program, go into a workforce education program, have the opportunity to do something like that to avoid time and a record. And it's worked quite well. And then to be able to form those relationships allows our case managers kind of a two-way street to be able to check up on the youth, for example, if they're starting to fall through the cracks. So that way we can be talking to them and kind of advocating for the youth and vice versa.
Thank you.
So just kind of to build off that, right now, our program provides mental health, NIAP, LWIFI program provides mental health and treatment advocacy services for WIOA involved youth. That's kind of our main Kane County program right now. We serve kind of the main 3 here. And we've had a few criminal justice involved youth so far. We've been working pretty well with their probation officers and things like that to make sure that they're getting services they need. We do some substance use stuff as well on top of the mental health. So yeah, as long as they're engaging in those WIOA services, we can kind of further support them along their journey there.
And NIAP offers adult mentoring as well in conjunction with mental health counseling. So it's been a huge benefit to all of our youth.
Yeah, I think one aspect to look at is we need to look at building a capacity of organizations like ours, you know, so that we can have the you know, the finances in order to institute certain programs that are very effective. And I think that's one of the disadvantages that we have as an organization, because oftentimes funds don't always come our way. Although we have you know, proven methodologies by which we change the direction of kids, change the narrative of these kids' lives, and thinking with opportunities. But oftentimes, you know, grant funding don't come our way to help support that. And so I think it's important to build our capacity so that we can be an integral part of these young men's lives, and you know, put them on a track of success, as opposed to being continually going in and out the juvenile justice system.
I know from law enforcement's view, we might not have any resources to offer, you know, this group necessarily, but I know Commander Majewski and I kind of have similar views, and we would be more than willing to meet with any of the partners on this call or anyone that we can help collaborate with as far as doing preventative, classes or tactics that would help to keep the kids stay out of the justice system. So if we can be of any help to anyone on this call, please reach out to either, myself or Commander Majewski. I don't think he's on the call today. Maybe he's there in person. I'm not sure, but we would definitely be willing to help or assist with that or work with any of these agencies.
Anybody else with anything to chime into anything that's already been said? Well, I thank everyone for their input. I think that we've gotten a lot of great ideas, and as indicated, we have our work group, and so this will be good information for us to be working on and with in the work group. Our focus is to make sure that our council is in line with what the statute says, but also to build on what we've already accomplished and make it more functional and easier for all of us to use and benefit from. So I thank you everyone for your input. And so that is the end of our new business. Julia did hand out with the packets, the legislative updates. So things, yeah, I'll email that out. Oh, I'm sorry, she's emailing those out. Sorry, I did not read my notes very well. So she will email those out, and those are legislative updates for things that pertain to juvenile delinquency. And is there any other updates that any of the agencies would like to share? Okay. Our next quarterly meeting then will be January 12th at 11:30. That one will be virtual, and Julia will send out everyone a link for that. And then our next Board of Directors meeting is November 10th at noon, and it is virtual as well. And then if no one has any other questions, then I would just ask for a motion to adjourn. Oh, Latanya, you have something?
No, I was ready to move.
Okay.
I was getting ready for the motion.
Tanya has motioned. If I could have a second.
I'll second.
And Josh has second. So that will conclude our meeting. Thanks everyone for coming. And hopefully we'll get more people in person the next time. But thank you all for attending.
Thanks, ROE, for providing food, even though we weren't there. I just couldn't get over that.
Thank you very much to ROE. That was very nice of them. And it, although I haven't eaten yet, it looks delicious. The chips were very good.
Oh, bye, everybody. Nice meeting you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Have a great weekend. Thank you guys for everything you do.